How well do you know the 80s? From neon fashion and big hair to MTV, Pac-Man, and unforgettable movies, the 80s were packed with culture that defined a generation. But how much do you really remember? In this quiz, we'll test your 80s knowledge with 20 fun questions. Right after each answer, you'll also get the story behind it, with surprising and nostalgic facts you may have forgotten. Grab your Walkman, crank up the synth pop, and let's see if you're a true child of the 80s or if the decade has totally slipped away. Question 1. What year did MTV launch? Answer: 1981. Fun fact, MTV's very first music video was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. At the time, not everyone even had cable, but MTV completely changed how music was marketed and consumed. It turned music videos into a cultural phenomenon and helped launch the careers of artists like Madonna and Michael Jackson. Question 2. Which video game released in 1980 became the first worldwide arcade phenomenon? Answer: Pac-Man. Fun fact, Pac-Man wasn't just a game. It became a pop culture icon. There were Pac-Man lunchboxes, a Saturday morning cartoon, and even a hit single called Pac-Man Fever. Its simple eat the dots design made it universally addictive. Question 3. What soft drink launched in 1982 as a Diet Cola alternative? Answer: Diet Coke. Fun fact, Coca-Cola launched Diet Coke as a healthier alternative, and it quickly became one of the most popular sodas in the world. Fun twist, Coca-Cola originally considered calling it Coca-Cola Light, like in Europe. Question 4. Which famous TV show premiered in 1989 featuring four friends living in New York City? Answer: Seinfeld. Fun fact, Seinfeld was famously called a show about nothing. It struggled in its first season, but by the mid-90s, it became one of the most watched sitcoms ever. The final episode in 1998 drew over 76 million viewers. Question 5. Who played Ferris Bueller in the 1986 hit Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Answer: Matthew Broderick. Fun fact, the film was shot in less than 3 months and became one of the ultimate teen comedies of the 80s. Bueller, Bueller is still one of the most quoted movie lines in pop culture. Question 6. What 1980 horror film made people afraid to go swimming? Answer: Friday the 13th, 1980. Fun fact, while Jaws made sharks scary in the 70s, Friday the 13th brought slasher horror to summer camps. The movie's killer, Jason Voorhees, wouldn't actually wear his famous hockey mask until the third movie. Question 7. Which toy line, introduced in 1982, came with collectible cards and colorful action figures? Answer: G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Fun fact, Hasbro relaunched G.I. Joe in the 80s as smaller 3.75-inch action figures after the Star Wars toy line made that scale popular. The toys came with file cards that told each character's backstory, making kids want to collect them all. Question 8. Which space shuttle tragically exploded shortly after takeoff in 1986? Answer: Challenger. Fun fact, the Challenger disaster shocked the world as it was broadcast live on TV. Among the crew was teacher Krista McAuliffe, who had been selected to be the first civilian in space. The tragedy led to a major overhaul of NASA's shuttle program. Question 9. What was the highest grossing film of the 1980s? Answer: E.T. the Extraterrestrial, 1982. Fun fact, directed by Steven Spielberg, E.T. held the title of highest grossing movie until Jurassic Park in 1993. The line, E.T. Phone Home, became instantly iconic. Reese's Pieces candy even got a massive sales boost after appearing in the film. Question 10. Which 80s singer was nicknamed the Material Girl? Answer: Madonna. Fun fact, Madonna earned the nickname from her hit song Material Girl, though she later said she regretted it sticking. By the late 80s, she wasn't just a pop star, she was a global cultural icon. Question 11. What handheld gaming system did Nintendo release in 1989? Answer: Game Boy. Fun fact, the original Game Boy came bundled with Tetris, which made it an instant hit. Despite its simple graphics and green and black screen, it sold over 118 million units worldwide and became the king of handheld gaming. Question 12. What hairstyle, often teased and sprayed, became a symbol of the 1980s? Answer: big hair. Fun fact: hairspray sales skyrocketed during the 80s as both men and women teased their hair into gravity defying styles. Rock bands, especially glam metal groups like Poison and Bon Jovi, made the look iconic. Question 13. Which TV series featured the characters Crockett and Tubbs, known for their pastel suits? Answer: Miami Vice. Fun fact: Miami Vice redefined TV style by blending music, fashion, and crime drama. It used contemporary hit songs in episodes, making it feel more like a music video than a traditional show. Question 14. What was the name of the fictional kingdom in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe? Answer: Eternia. Fun fact: He-Man was created to sell toys, but the cartoon ended up becoming a global phenomenon. He-Man's catchphrase, "I have the power," is still recognized today. Question 15. Which British band released the 1981 hit Don't You Want Me? Answer: The Human League. Fun fact: the song became one of the defining tracks of the 80s synth pop movement. Despite the band's doubts about releasing it as a single, it hit number one in both the UK and US. Question 16. Who became President of the United States in 1981? Answer: Ronald Reagan. Fun fact: Reagan, a former Hollywood actor, served 2 terms through most of the 80s. His presidency was marked by the Cold War's final years, economic changes, and pop culture references that turned him into an 80s symbol. Question 17. What 80s fitness craze was led by VHS workout tapes? Answer: aerobics. Fun fact: Jane Fonda's workout tapes became a sensation, turning exercise into a living room activity. Bright spandex, leg warmers, and sweatbands became the fashion of the era thanks to the craze. Question 18. Which candy bar used the slogan, "Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't"? Answer: Almond Joy/Mounds. Fun fact: the slogan became one of the most memorable ad jingles of the 80s. Almond Joy had almonds and milk chocolate, while Mounds had dark chocolate and no almonds. Commercials ran constantly during Saturday morning cartoons. Question 19. What animated series introduced characters like Lion-O, Chitara, and Mum-Ra? Answer: Thundercats. Fun fact: Thundercats debuted in 1985 and became a huge hit with kids thanks to its unique mix of sci-fi and fantasy. Its opening theme song is still remembered as one of the catchiest of the decade. Question 20. Which popular arcade game featured a frog trying to cross a busy road? Answer: Frogger. Fun fact: Frogger was simple but stressful. You had to dodge cars, trucks, and even alligators. The game was so popular it even inspired references in TV shows like Seinfeld. That's the end of our 80s trivia quiz. How many did you get right? Drop your score in the comments. I'd love to see who's a true 80s expert. If you had fun, don't forget to hit that like button and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next nostalgia quiz. Thanks for playing, and I'll see you in the next one.